from BSBA 1A. I will be reporting the 14th President of the Philippines and their contribution. Next slide. Emilio Aguinaldo. Emilio Aguinaldo Y. Fami, born on March 22, 1869, died on February 6, 1964. Presidential term January 23, 1899 to March 23, 1901. The first president of the Philippine First Republic, also known as the Malolos Republic. He waved the Philippine flag in declaring the Independence Day of the Philippines in 1898. The youngest Filipino president taking office at age 28. The longest-lived president of the Philippines, passing away at the age 94. He signed the Pact of Biak na Bato, creating the between the Spanish and the Philippine Revolutionary. He was also known as entrepreneur, soldier, and politician. Next slide. Manuel L. Quezon. Manuel Luis Quezon Y. Molina, born on August 19, 1878, died on August 1, 1944. Presidential term November 15, 1935 to August 1, 1944. The second president of the Philippines, the first president of the Philippine Commonwealth established under the USA. He was inaugurated on December 30, 1941 in Corregidor Island. He was known as the father of the national language, ama ng wikang pambansa. Manuel L. Quezon created the National Council of Education. He approved the Filipino as the national language of the Philippines. Next slide. Jose P. Laurel. Jose Paciano Laurel Y. Garcia, born on March 9, 1891, died on November 6, 1959. Presidential term October 14, 1943 to August 17, 1945. The third president of the Philippines and the president of the Second Philippine Republic. The only president who served the three branches of government. He became a senator, congressman, associate justice, and president. Since the early 1960s, Laurel was recognized as the legitimate president of the Philippines. He organized the Kalibapi Kapisanan sa paglilingkod sa Bagong Pilipinas or Association for Service to the New Philippines, a provisional government during the Japanese occupation. Next slide. Sergio Osmeña. Sergio Osmeña Sr., born on September 9, 1878, died on October 17, 1961. Presidential term August 1, 1944 to May 8, 1946. The fourth president of the Philippines and the second president of the Commonwealth. The first Visayan to become a president, born in Cebu City. He joined with U.S. General Douglas MacArthur in Leyte on October 20, 1944 to begin restoration of the Philippine freedom after Japanese occupation. Founder of the Nacionalista Party, Philippine National Bank was rehabilitated and the country joined the National Monetary Fund during his presidency. The U.S. Congress approved the Belt Trade Act during his presidency. Next slide. Manuel A. Rojas. Manuel Acuña Rojas, born on January 1, 1892, died April 15, 1948. Presidential term May 28, 1946 to April 15, 1948. The fifth president of the Philippines, the third and last president under the Commonwealth, and the first president of the Third Republic of the Philippines, inaugurated as the first president of the new republic after World War II. Reconstruction from World War damage and life without foreign rule began his presidency. The Congress accepted the Philippine Rehabilitation Act and the Philippine Trade Act law under his term. Elpidio Quirino. Elpidio Rivera Quirino, born on November 16, 1890, died on February 29, 1956. Presidential term April 17, 1948 to December 30, 1953. The sixth president of the Philippines and the second president of the Third Republic. He created the National Social Security Commission. He created the Integrity Board to monitor graft and corruption during his term. Quezon City became capital of the Philippines in 1948. Next slide. Ramon Magsaysay. Ramon Del Ferro Magsaysay, born on August 31, 1907, died March 17, 1957. Presidential term December 30, 1953 to March 17, 1957. The 7th President of the Philippines and the 3rd President of the Third Republic. He was the first President who sworn into the office wearing Barong Tagalog during inauguration. He led the defeat of Buk Balahap movement, chairman of the Committee on Guerrilla Affairs. His presidency was referred to as the Philippine Golden Years for its lack of corruption. He established the National Resettlement and Rehabilitation Administration, also known as NARA, among other agrarian reform. He made the Philippines as a member of the Southeast Asia. Next slide. Carlos P. Garcia. Carlos Polistico Garcia, born on November 4, 1896, died on June 14, 1971. Presidential term March 18, 1957 to December 1961. The 8th President of the Philippines and the 4th President of the Third Republic. He was known as promoting the first Filipino First policy, which favored the Filipino businesses over the foreign investors. He established the austerity program focusing on the Filipino trade and commerce. He became a famous poet and known as the Prince of Visayan Poet and the Bard of Rambuhol. Cultural arts was revived during his term. He was the first president to have his remain board in the Libingan ng Bayani. Next slide. Diosdado Macapagal. Diosdado Pangan Macapagal Sr., born on September 28, 1910, died on April 21, 1997. Presidential term December 30, 1961 to December 30, 1965. The 9th President of the Philippines. He was the great economist. He established the Filipino Land Reform Law, allowing the purchase of private farmland to distribute inexpensive small lot to land lease. The Philippine representative to the United Nations General Assembly 3 times. He signed the minimum wage law. He signed the law to create the Philippine Veterans Bank. Next slide. Ferdinand E. Marcos. Ferdinand Emmanuel Idralin Marcos Sr., born on September 11, 1917, died on September 28, 1989. Presidential term December 30, 1965 to February 25, 1986. The 10th President of the Philippines and the last President of the Third Republic. The first President to win the second term. The longest ruling President of the Philippines. He ruled for 21 years. He declared a martial law on September 22, 1972. He increased the size of Philippine military and armed forces. Marcos built more schools, roads, bridge, hospitals, and other infrastructure than all former presidents combined. Next slide. Corazon Aquino. Maria Corazon Corisumolong Juanco Aquino, born on January 25, 1933, died on August 1, 2009. Presidential term February 25, 1986 to June 30, 1992. The 11th President and the first woman to be President of the Philippines or any Asian country. She signed the Family Code 1987, a major civil law reform, and the 1191 Local Government Code, which is recognized the structure of the executive branch of the government. He initiated charitable and social activities helping the poor and the needy. He was named Woman of the Year in 1986 by the Time magazine. Next slide. Fidel B. Ramos. Fidel Valdez Ramos, born on March 18, 1928. Presidential term June 30, 1992 to June 30, 1998. The President of the Philippines and the oldest living former president of the country, Fidel B. Ramos is now 94 years old. He was slightly credited as the most effective president because he led the Philippines to economic growth. He promoted the family planning practices to help to solve the country's growing population. Ramos reached out the peace talk with the rebels such as the Moro National Liberation Front and New People's Army. The Philippine Stock Exchange became an international favorite during his presidency. Next slide. Joseph Estrada. Joseph Ejercito Estrada, born on April 1937, still alive. Presidential term June 30, 1998 to January 20, 2001. The 13th president of the Philippines and the first film actor become a president in the country. He starred in over 100 films in the Philippines and received the numerous Best Actor awards. More Islamic Liberation Front headquarters and camps were captured during his presidency. Cited as the three outstanding senators in 1989, he became a mayor of City of Manila, the country of capital. Next slide. Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. Maria Gloria Macaraig Macapagal Arroyo, born on April 5, 1947, still alive. Presidential term January 20, 2001 to June 30, 2010. The 14th president of the Philippines, the second female president, and the first Filipino president whose parent was former president, the second female president of the country, the first president to take oath outside Luzon. Gloria Arroyo oversaw higher economic growth than the past three presidents before her. She supported the bring back Spanish language in the Philippines during her 9th-year presidency. She took up the international trade of Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. with Bill Clinton. Thank you for watching.